All right, let's talk about Near Protocol. Because on the surface, it looks like just another blockchain, right? But it has this fascinating secret. It wasn't actually born in the world of crypto. It came from the world of AI. And its whole mission, its entire reason for being, is to solve what is maybe the single biggest problem in Web3, making it easy enough for, normal people to actually use. I mean, seriously, why is it still so difficult? This is the one question that Near's founders were just obsessed with. Because let's be real, for all the talk about changing the world, using Web3 can be intimidating, it can be super complex, and honestly, sometimes it's a total nightmare. That right there, that's the wall standing between crypto and mass adoption. And here's a perfect example. Just look at this. On the left, you've got your typical crypto address, that monster of random letters and numbers. It's impossible to remember, and it's absolutely terrifying to send money to, right? One typo and it's gone forever. Now, look at the right. Alice.near. Simple. Human. This isn't just some nice little feature they tacked on. No, this is a complete rethinking of what a digital identity should be, and it's baked right into the very core of the protocol. So how in the world did they end up with this user-first philosophy when so many others didn't? Well, the answer is so interesting because the whole story of Near doesn't even start with blockchain. It starts with artificial intelligence. And you have to understand, this context changes everything. The founders weren't crypto natives trying to put a band-aid on a broken system. They were these brilliant AI researchers who ran smack into a wall with old-world tech. They realized the fundamental plumbing of the internet needed to be ripped out and rebuilt from the ground up. And it's that outsider perspective that gives Near its totally unique DNA. And their journey was just a whirlwind. I mean, one minute it's 2017 and they're teaching AI how to write code. In fact, one of the founders, Ilya Polosukhin, co-authors this little paper called Attention is All You Need. You might have heard of it. It's only the blueprint for pretty much all modern AI, like ChatGPT. But then, when they tried to pay their international contractors, they just slammed into the bureaucratic nightmare of global finance. They looked to crypto for an answer, but everything was too slow, too expensive, too clunky. So in 2018, they made this massive life-changing pivot. Forget teaching AI to code, let's build a whole new internet for them to live on. And that pivot, that decision to build it themselves, led them to create a blueprint for a totally new kind of blockchain. One designed from day one, from the ground up, to solve the exact problems they just ran into: usability and, of course, scale. Which brings us to what is, in my opinion, Near's absolute killer feature: the account model. It completely blows up the old idea of on-chain identity. It says, hey, maybe your entire digital life shouldn't be tied to one single secret password that if you lose it, you lose everything. It moves past that one catastrophic point of failure. So how does it work? It's actually genius in its simplicity. Your one account, like Alice.near, can have multiple keys. You have your full access key. That's like the master key to your entire digital kingdom. You keep that thing locked down in a vault. But when you want to try a new game or a new app, you can issue a temporary function call key. That key can only talk to that one specific app, and you can even set spending limits. So if that app ever gets hacked, the hacker can't touch your main funds. You just delete that one key. It is a complete game changer for user security. Okay, so they solved the user security problem. Check. But what about making it fast enough for millions of people? That's where Nightshade sharding comes in. Now, sharding isn't a totally new idea, but Near's approach is really different. Instead of creating a bunch of separate, siloed blockchains that have to talk to each other, Nightshade keeps everything as one single unified chain. It just splits the work of processing transactions into parallel lanes or chunks. Think of it like a highway adding more lanes during rush hour. Same highway, just way more capacity. And they've been rolling this out in a really careful, methodical way over several years. First came the basic parallel processing. The phase we're in now is called stateless validation, and this is so important. It basically makes it way cheaper and easier for people to run the computers that secure the network, which is a huge boost for decentralization. The final stage, the holy grail, is dynamic resharding. That's where the network will just automatically add or remove those lanes based on traffic. A truly elastic blockchain. But, having the most brilliant technical design in the world doesn't mean anything if you don't have a smart economic engine to actually power the whole thing. And that brings us to the tokenomics of Near. So the Near token itself really has four main jobs. It pays for gas fees, it's used as collateral for storing data on the chain, it's what you stake to help secure the network, and it gives you a vote in how the whole thing is run. Pretty standard stuff. The model starts with a very predictable 5% annual inflation. And, before you think inflation bad, this isn't random money printing. This new supply is absolutely essential. It's how you pay the validators for the hard work and real-world cost of keeping the network running securely 24/7. But, and this is a huge but, this is the critical other half of the equation, a massive 70% of all the transaction fees paid on the network get burned. Poof, gone forever. They're permanently removed from the supply. This creates this incredibly powerful counterforce. It means the more people are actually using Near, the scarcer the token becomes. So if 70% is burned, what happens to the other 30%? Well, this is where Near gets really, really clever. That 30% gets paid directly back to the developers of the smart contract that generated the fee. Think about that. It's a built-in protocol-level revenue share. If you build a popular app on Near, the protocol itself pays you. That is one heck of an incentive to get the best builders in the world to come to your ecosystem. So you've got this super user-friendly design, these amazing developer incentives, and it worked. The growth has been absolutely incredible. But it's also created this really fascinating puzzle. You could call it the paradox of popularity. Because on one hand, you look at the user numbers and they are just staggering. At its peak, Near had over 48 million monthly active addresses. That is massive. But then you look at the other side of the coin, the total value locked, the amount of money actually in the DeFi ecosystem. And it's just way, way lower than its biggest competitors. The story is crystal clear. Near is an absolute genius at getting users in the door, but it hasn't yet figured out how to get them to stick around and engage deeply with the economy. And when you put Near side by side with the heavyweights, you see its position really clearly. It blows Ethereum out of the water on fees and user experience. It offers a potentially more robust and stable design than Solana. But it's way behind on that on-chain capital, that TVL, and it has a smaller set of validators, which, does bring up some concerns about decentralization. So what's the plan? How do you solve that paradox and bridge the gap between all those users and real economic value? Well, Near's next chapter is all about taking its single greatest weapon, that amazing account model, and aiming it at a vision that is way, way bigger than just its own blockchain. And this is the end game. It's a concept called chain abstraction. Just imagine this. You use your one, simple, safe Alice.Near accounts as the master key for your entire life in Web3. You could use it to manage your assets on Ethereum, interact with apps on Solana, even do things on Bitcoin, all from one place, with one login, without all the usual complexity. See, Near doesn't want to just be another chain. It wants to be the simple, user-friendly front door to the entire multi-chain universe. And this is where the whole story just snaps into focus, bringing us right back to where we started, with AI. Because the ultimate goal here isn't just about making crypto wallets easier. It's about building the fundamental layer for a whole new kind of internet. An internet powered by user-owned AI, where we each have our own decentralized AI agents working for us, transacting for us, all secured by the Near protocol. Now, to power a future like that, a future with billions of AI agents chattering back and forth, you need an absolutely insane amount of performance. And that's why Near has set this audacious goal of hitting 1 million transactions per second. That's not just a vanity number, it's the kind of fire hose of throughput you'd actually need to make that AI-powered world a reality. So that's where we are. Near has this undeniably elegant, user-first architecture and this breathtakingly huge vision for the future. But it is going up against absolute giants like Ethereum and Solana, platforms that have these massive, entrenched network effects and deep, deep pools of capital. And that brings us to the final, multi-billion-dollar question that will decide everything. In this fight for the future of the internet, can a better design actually overcome the powerful gravity of the incumbents?